The debate over Britain's two-child benefit cap has become a defining test of the Labour government's priorities. Ever since taking office last summer, Prime Minister and Cabinet colleagues have been pressed, sometimes by their own backbenchers, to scrap a policy they believe drives child poverty higher. The tension came to a head only weeks into Labour's term, when 7 of its own MPs rebelled and lost the party whip after backing an opposition amendment brought forward by the Scottish National Party. That amendment called for the immediate removal of the cap. It was a dramatic moment for a party newly returned to power and determined to show unity on social policy. For many Labour lawmakers, the issue goes to the heart of why they sought office in the first place, to tackle child poverty. Charities and advocacy groups often point to the cap as a single fixable rule that could transform the lives of hundreds of thousands of children. Economists regularly cite the same stark figures. Abolishing the cap could lift some 350,000 children out of poverty altogether and 700,000 more out of what researchers call deep poverty. Yet the price tag is significant, about £3.5 billion a year. For a government wrestling with other expensive commitments, that figure cannot be ignored. This week, the pressure intensified. Gordon Brown, Labour's former Prime Minister, joined more than 100 backbench MPs in signing a letter urging the government to act. Brown and others argued that the money could be found by raising taxes on online gambling companies. It was a pointed reminder that choices on revenue are as political as choices on spending. The government's own senior figures are not united. Both candidates vying for the party's deputy leadership have indicated support for scrapping the cap. And the Prime Minister himself, in an interview with The Guardian, reiterated that reducing child poverty is one of his core priorities. He stopped short of a clear promise, but his remarks were interpreted as opening the door to change. Education Minister Josh Mallister, newly appointed and a former school teacher, echoed that message in public comments earlier in the day. He underlined that cutting child poverty was not only a moral imperative, but also an educational one. Fewer children growing up in poverty, he argued, would mean better results in school and better life chances in the years ahead. Mallister struck a careful note, however. He reminded the public that government must weigh many competing demands on limited funds. While he acknowledged that reforming the benefit cap would be one of the most effective levers for reducing child poverty, he emphasised that the announcement of the day was focused elsewhere. An expansion of free breakfast clubs to an additional 2,000 primary schools beginning next April. That initiative, he said, would help families right away, ensuring more children start the school day fed and ready to learn. It also signalled that ministers were seeking practical, immediate steps, even as the larger debate over the benefit cap continued. For the Prime Minister, the political calculation is delicate. Labour campaigned on restoring fairness to public policy, yet also pledged fiscal discipline. To concede now to the demands of campaigners and many in his own party could be hailed as a bold social justice move, but it would also invite criticism for breaking budgetary restraint so soon after taking office. Supporters of lifting the cap insist that the long-term benefits outweigh the costs. Fewer children in poverty means less strain on public services, better educational outcomes, and ultimately a stronger economy. Critics warn that promising major spending without secure funding sources risks undermining public confidence in Labour's economic management. The voices of those most affected are often heard less in the political wrangling. Charities and social policy researchers highlight stories of families where a third child receives no additional support, leaving households already struggling to stretch every pound. They argue that the cap deepens inequality at precisely the point when families need help most. The debate has also revived a broader question that has dogged governments for decades. Should the welfare system be purely a safety net or an active tool for reducing inequality? For many in Labour's grassroots, the answer is clear. For the Treasury and for voters anxious about the national balance sheet, it is far more complicated. As the party's annual conference approaches, speculation grows that the government may unveil a shift in policy. Cabinet ministers have remained publicly cautious, hinting at reviews and consultations rather than firm commitments. Yet political observers note that each new statement from senior figures seems to tilt the conversation a little closer to decisive action. The row over the two-child cap is not merely about one benefit rule. It has become a test of Labour's ability to navigate between principle and pragmatism, between long-term social goals and immediate fiscal limits. The outcome will send a signal about how this government intends to balance compassion with control of the public purse. For now, the Prime Minister maintains that his mission is to reduce child poverty. The question hanging over Westminster is whether he will do so by directly dismantling the policy, most often blamed for entrenching it, or by pursuing a series of more targeted measures, such as expanded school programmes, hoping to chip away at the problem without incurring the full political and financial cost. As the government weighs its options, charities and campaigners continue to highlight the human dimension behind the statistics: the households counting meals, the children starting school without the basics, the communities that see poverty passed from one generation to the next. In the coming weeks, attention will focus not only on the Labour leadership's speeches, but also on how they intend to pay for any reform. The debate over funding, whether through taxing gambling profits or by other means, will likely prove as contentious as the question of the cap itself. Whichever course is chosen, the issue has already reshaped the political landscape for Labour's new government, exposing divisions within its ranks and forcing a conversation about the very purpose of progressive politics in Britain today. In newsrooms and policy circles alike, the question now is not whether child poverty will be a priority, but whether the government will accept the argument made by many of its own allies that the surest way to make a dent is to remove the two-child benefit cap once and for all. For families waiting on decisions in Westminster, the stakes could not be higher. The coming months will reveal whether this government is prepared to match words about fairness and opportunity with the kind of bold reform that campaigners have demanded.